Welcome back to the People of 1953. If you haven't already, please go like and subscribe our YouTube channel. As you can see, we have a different background. I want to keep doing these videos every single time, and we'll kind of keep getting into different things. My last video, we talked about Michael Jackson and the allegations around him. I'm going to try to do these without cutting, and this one take Jake. And we're going to talk about, first of all, it's going to be a two-part episode. We're going to talk about the background of Jeffrey Epstein and some of his connections, and then some of the lead up eventually committing to his crime timeline. So with that, let's get into it. So a lot of people know the Epstein files and the big cover-up behind it, but there's not too many people that actually know kind of like the backstory and the specific timeline leading up to this and where his start all came to be. So, if you don't know, Jeffrey Epstein was an American financier who was a sex offender who operated a vast network of criminal operations of human trafficking. He was born on January 20th, 1953. Ironic, the year, the people of 1953. It just happens. I'm not doing this purposely. In Brooklyn, New York, he was the first of two children born to Paula Epstein and Seymour Epstein. Their name was quite different though. It was Niece Scorbeeks. I don't know if it's a Jewish name. I won't get into it, but I'll put it here for you. Who themselves was children of Jewish immigrants. So yes, it was obviously that. He graduated in 1969 after skipping 2 grades and later enrolled at the Cooper Union for the Advancement of Science and Art. He studied there until 1971, and then he transferred to Corinth Institute of Mathematical Sciences at NYU. And important to note, he studied 3 years at NYU, but did not graduate. That's important to note. In 1974, despite not having a degree, began teaching physics and mathematics at the prestigious Dalton School in Manhattan. That is very important to say. This is when first some of the allegations start kind of coming out. And it says the New York Times reported that he was one of the only teachers to attend a party for high school students at which they were drinking. During a parent-teacher conference in 1976, he impressed the student's father. He would go on to tell the Ace Greenberg, then the CEO of Wall Street state investment firm Bernstein. So he was basically impressing them. What that noise was. Sorry. Following that, 1975-1976 was the school year. Epstein was dismissed from his position at Dalton after an evaluation found his teaching skills were lacking. Obviously, if he didn't graduate and you just throw him in this position, who wouldn't guess? So continue. He began working at Bernstein soon after. According to the New York Times, in multiple occasions, Bernstein questions Epstein's actions, including lying about his resume and buying jewelry for his girlfriend and charging the company. So it's kind of like from the beginning of this all, from his teaching in 1976. Really, it all started in 1974, but from 1976, he started having some nefarious kind of things going on and some shady actions. Going off that, at 27 years old, Cosmetology magazine featured him as Bachelor of the Month, and Bernstein named him a limited partner. The next year, they opened an investigation into determining whether he violated Securities and Exchange Commission's regulations, or the SEC. He was suspended and fined, but denied wrongdoing, said, quote unquote, he was deeply offended by the investigation and would eventually quit. So we're getting into the 80s and 90s here. So in the 80s, Epstein was described as associates as, quote unquote, a bounty hunter who received stolen money from the ultra rich. It proved to be a lucrative enterprise, and by 1984, Epstein had become a millionaire. He was a client of Bernstein and not a broker. So that's important to note. At this time, he began making up money, and all these different organizations and all these were looking into him. Like, how is this dude making all this money? He's not qualified. And eventually would go on to, and now we're getting to 1987, Epstein joined the board of New York Academy of Art, founded by Pivar, I'll put it right here, and Randy Warhol. In 1988, Epstein founded J. Epstein and Company, a consulting firm that provided many money management services to individuals with a net worth more than $1 billion. So this is when we start getting him into the connections behind billionaires and millionaires, and him really getting a lot of money. So most notable, Leslie X. Wexner, who owned Victoria's Secrets, Bath & Body Works, and Abercrombie and Fitch, and Lane Bryant. Epstein named his holdings. Epstein was managed his holdings in beneficiary and benefited enormously. Sorry about that. My handwriting was a little sloppy there. Let's get into the next one. In April 1998, through a shell company, LSJ LLC bought a private island, Little St. James, in the U.S. Virgin Islands for $8 million, calling it a tax haven, roughly 70 acres. So this is when we start putting out, it's getting into the 2000s now, and this is when Ghislaine Maxwell kind of comes into the picture. And I'm not going to say allegedly on any of this, because if you look in the files, it's all out there, and we'll get it more on that into the second episode. So in 2000, Ghislaine Maxwell invited a 16-year-old Virginia Giuffre, as we know a lot about her, to become Epstein's masseuse after seeing her at a Mar-a-Lago. Well, that part I'll say allegedly. At a Mar-a-Lago in reading a massage manual, quote unquote. Epstein expanded his financial footprints by investing $57 million into Bernstein's high-grade structured credit hedge fund, a leveraged investment to later contribute to the bank 2008 collapse. That is a lot to uncover, and we'll probably get into that a lot more in episode 2 or part 2 of this. But he went from getting questioned by the company to not only he became a client, not a broker, and now he's investing $57 million into their structured credit hedge fund. So going off that, a 14-year-old girl becomes the earliest underage victim to formally accuse Epstein of molestation, citing an incident at the Palm Beach mansion. According to investigators, the girl was brought from high school by another teenager to give Epstein a massage in exchange for money. Federal prosecutors later said the abuse began in 2002. So it's important to know, I always wanted to figure out who's the girl. And so was Ghislaine Maxwell, was she paying people, or was Epstein paying high school girls to bring other victims to him? And originally, who was that victim? I think that is an important question to know. And we probably will never know, honestly, until they maybe come out one day and have a conversation about it. And I think Virginia Giuffre actually killed herself. Unfortunately, after she exposed, Prince Andrew. We'll get more into that from the photos in the next part episode. I don't have all my information in front of me. So continue. After Palm Beach, police brought the case to the state attorney's office of Palm Beach County grand jury, indicted Epstein on July 19, 2006 for felony solicitation of prostitution in violation of Florida statute, and he was fined $796.07. And remind you, this is a billionaire, or not a billionaire yet. He is a multi-millionaire. He has enough money to invest $57 million into a company. So that's $796.07 relatively isn't nothing. And it's sad that it has to go underneath the radar like that. So it's starting into an Epstein crime timeline. So in 2007, the assistant U.S. attorney, who has been working with the 2 FBI agents to find more victims, they submitted a draft indictment outlining 60 criminal counts against Epstein, along with a meme summarizing the evidence assembling against him. Sorry, handwriting is a little rough sometimes. Okay, so we're going to get into July. Epstein's attorney met with the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of Florida. The top prosecutor was then the U.S. Attorney, Alex Acosta. Allegedly, don't sue me. He's really known for going at people, allegedly. Who would, in 2017, become President Trump's labor secretary. The office offers to end its investigation if Epstein pleads guilty to the 2 state charges and agrees to accept a prison term, register as a sex offender, and set up a way for his victims to obtain monetary damages. So again, this was Epstein's attorney, and now, or was President Trump's labor secretary, Alex Acosta, and that's not alleged. The deal includes a controversial non-prosecution agreement, and the federal prosecutor's office grant immunity to Epstein for conspirators and any potential co-conspirators. The Justice Department says Prosecutors agreed not to tell Epstein's victim about the NDA or the MPA, which is filed under seal. So it's like, hey, yeah, we're gonna pay these people out, and we're gonna agree not to tell them any of your punishment or anything that's going on. That was all during 2007. So this is 2008. He pleads guilty to a state charge of solicitation of prosecution and solicitation of prostitution with a minor under the age of 18. He was sentenced to 18 months in a minimum security facility. He had a condition he could leave 12 hours a day to work a foundation he had recently incorporated, including, according to the Justice Department. So he basically served. They had special conditions, almost kind of like when he got prosecuted later in the later 2000s and the 2010s, and he would do that. But anyways, July 22nd, 2009, Epstein is released after serving less than 13 months. It's kind of crazy that you can commit a crime against children, you can be out. And January 4th, 2011, Central Park picture with Prince Andrew was taken. March 1st, 2011, Virginia Giuffre's first public interview. And January 1st, 2015, Giuffre sues Maxwell for defamation. So we're going to go to July 15, 2019, Epstein arrested on federal charges. August 9th, 2019, Epstein's found dead in jail. Found dead. July 1st, Maxwell was arrested by the FBI. And it's crazy because they said that there's no victims yet. She's in prison or jail now, minimum security for sex trafficking, but they said that there was no victims. We'll get more into that in the next episode. I'm just kind of giving you a timeline. And December 28, 2021, Maxwell was convicted. And with that, we're going to get into the next episode and really talk about the connections and really breaking everything down from the get-go. I really just want to give everyone a quick timeline of kind of like Epstein's wrongdoing and the different things that are going on. And like I said, it's not alleged. The only one I will say alleged because he does take legal action is Alex Acosta. But there's multiple names that pop up in this, and I kind of look forward to talking about this. And this is all coming from the emails. We have Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, Prince Andrews, former Secretary of Treasury Larry Summers, and former White House advisor Steve Bannon. Also, Steve Bannon did an interview with Epstein, and that is an interesting thing to watch. Also, too, another one in the emails was Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Celebrate Brim, Mark Zuckerberg, Leon Black, and Peter Thiel. Palantir. That's all we would say on that one, as well as Naomi Campbell, most notably known for a lot of doing work with models and different stuff like that, and magician David Copperfield. And we'll get into different things like that. But for now, this is episode part 1. And I can't wait to show you part 2 when we get to it.